Welcome to Speedify Live Office Hours. I'm your host, Alex Gieses. This is the Speedify Chief Technical Officer, Brian Prodoehl.
Hello.
You got the man himself here. So if anyone has questions about Speedify, how to use it, how does it work, where are we going with it, this is your opportunity to ask Brian himself. We're watching the comments and we are totally live. So just post them underneath and we will see them pop up and we will answer them. How you doing, Brian?
Doing good. How are you?
I'm all right. Look at me. I'm live streaming in Philly. So we're actually both here at the office today, which is pretty exciting and rare. Gaming Shraven says, hi, sir. Ah.
All right. Here's a question.
All right. Ask your question. We're here for you, man. Or ma'am, or whatever. All right. Meanwhile, yeah, so, we're doing this every Wednesday for half an hour, 2 to 2:30 Eastern. Office hours? Yeah, anything you have to ask. So we have a bunch of interesting things coming up while we wait for these questions. Tomorrow, we are going to be IRL streaming with Craig Grossman of Arts and Crafts Holding. He is transforming the whole sort of Spring Garden corridor in Philadelphia. He is rebuilt or is rebuilding something, 8 or 9 buildings. So he's going to take us around and show us all the crazy buildings in this neighborhood. So you'll have a better idea where we're coming from. Then July 5th, we're going with the comedian and streamer Navius. July 7th, Mike Castellucci, the creator of the hit show Phone It In. So a lot of good guests coming up. We'd also like to hear from you guys what you use Speedify for. I assume some of you are using Speedify. Tell us what you're using for. Gaming, live streaming, calls, faster internet. Let us know. All right. So what changes are coming in Speedify in the near future?
So we just pushed out, I think, a pretty solid bug fix release. So it's 12.2.2, I think, is out now. So pretty good. I mean, we have a bunch of systems in place to report, either crashes on the client side or the server side or whatever, and we're, chiseling away at those. They're a small percentage now, and we're keep driving it towards zero. So that's good. I think in the pipeline, our server team has been really working on improving the reputation of our servers and our IPs, trying to get more and more stuff unblocked and trying to make sure that you can do everything you want to on all of our servers. In the app team, I know Kevin's been on the Q&A a bunch, and I know his team has been doing a lot of testing with things like Apache Bench and stuff, and making sure that, thousands of active sockets and stuff keep their performance up through Speedify. So that should all be coming up soon.
All right. Video to Go Live asks, hi, is it 100% safe? I've experienced Speedify has disconnected with no reason. I had to rescue the stream and had no time to investigate.
Yeah, I mean, it a lot of times when we see that and when we get logs back from people, it looks like, there was a pretty bad break in, multiple connections that you had. But in all those cases, we know the importance when you're live of keeping it actually 100% safe. And so anybody that sees that sort of thing, please, once you're done with your stream, pop back into the app, hit the little 3-bar menu and send us logs, tell us what happened, and we'll dig through, because that's, I think, kind of the small percentage of cases that we're really trying to get to the bottom of. So if you see that, please send us logs. We can figure it out.
All right. Sir Norris says, I have a question. What's the max throughput I can get using the VPN on a 900 megabit per second line?
A lot of that depends on where you are and what servers we have that are nearby. I know Kevin and I are in that similar situation. And so I think from our houses to our servers in Virginia, we can get something like 800 or 850 megabits. So a lot of that depends. I would imagine you'd see somewhere above 300. If you're anywhere like, in the US or Europe, or close to our servers in Asia.
Yeah, there are dedicated servers. Right?
Yeah.
If you need these kind of speeds, because now you're getting close to maxing out a server. If you want those kind of speeds, you can get a dedicated server, $900 a year, and we will make sure that there is a server that can do at least a gigabit somewhere near you. In the UK. So that's an option. Obviously, it raises the price of service, but we make sure that there's a server just for you. Not that it service, other routers connected to OpenBit. If you could send logs, we are pretty darn reliable. We do track down problems every release. I mean, they're getting down into the, there's no problem that affects even 1 in 1,000 people. How's that? I'm not going to say there are no problems, but we're tracking down super rare things at this point. But I mean, they do exist, right? All right. Gordon is going to add Speedify soon. Live music using Mevo cameras. I'm hearing great things about the Mevo cameras. I haven't tried them myself. But that is certainly the camera with the most buzz out there. So I probably should get one. All right. Alcinda, trying to get it to work, was replacing my VPN with only white screen TV boxes. Not quite sure.
It's like a Fire HD or something, or what?
Is it some Android TV? We do support those. Yeah. Do tell us more, Alcinda. I'm sorry if I'm saying your name wrong. Quiet Galaxy says Mevos are fun. They're so portable. All right. So I'm a gamer. We need a few more countries. Some underrated countries now. What country?
Which countries do you want?
Which country is gaming, Shraven? Tell us. We how many countries are we in now?
Oh, countries 58 or something, I think.
How many cities?
92 or 93, I think.
Yeah. So our coverage is getting pretty good. So how do you decide when to add a new country?
So a lot of it comes from, either customer requests is a big one, where, we get a bunch of people asking about Brazil or whatever. And so we go out and really do a survey and find, what are the best hosts in Brazil that we should use for this, that sort of thing. And some of it, when one of the hosting partners that we use goes live in a new location, that's also a really good time. So, if somebody launches in Iceland or whatever, we're usually one of the first to spin something up and see if it, if it actually meets our demands. So unfortunately, sometimes something will launch in an interesting location, and we rent a server before we let it loose on everybody, and sometimes results are not so great, and so we'll keep checking in every few months. But yeah, sometimes new locations.
There's launch. a lot of Africa in particular. I know we've had problems of things sound like they should work and they just don't.
Yeah, it's tough. A lot of 5 megabit, like I can't.
Yeah.
It's not interesting enough, or latency to things is too high. Usually, when we roll out to a new location, we try to make sure that latency to things like Google and big CDNs and Facebook and stuff, we want to make sure that's all sub-millisecond. We basically want to make sure we're in the same data center as a lot of big services. And that just really makes the web experience way better. Android TV. So this is the white screen.
Yeah.
I know we work with Android TV, but we'll have to take a look.
If you could send an email to support@speedify.com, you can get the Android developers following up with you. We do in general work on Android TV, so I'm not sure why.
Yeah, and I don't know if you use it, but I actually do.
Oh, you do?
Yes.
I've got all my TVs at home are Roku now.
Okay. Yeah, my TV's got Android, so I've got the app.
All right. Yes. Yeah. So that's the email address. Put it on the screen, support@speedify.com. Those of you having problems, that is a good way to reach us. Brian mentioned sending logs earlier. Obviously, this doesn't work if all you're getting is a white screen. But in Speedify, when you get the screen up, you can... here's the menu. Oh, I'm clicking on the image, not the actual menu window. Here's the menu at the top right, left. You click that. And down here at the very bottom is generate logs. If you click that, it'll make a zip file that you can then email back to us, and it's chock full of information about what Speedify was doing and trying to do. All right. Video go live says, I do 150 plus hockey games per season live, 7 arenas, lots of problems. Only some kind of bonding survives. Trying Speedify in parallel, but I hesitate. I gladly do more tests. I stream 1080p 50 at 12 megabits. That's 50 frames per second. It certainly should work. Obviously, these arenas can be brutal. They can be brutal, right? And first of all, you don't get great signal, and then second of all, you have thousands of people fiddling with their phones in the same room that didn't have great signal in the same place. But Speedify should be able to do as well as anything at that.
Yeah, the stadium stuff. We've done a bunch of testing with that too, and it gets really interesting. There's a lot of things like halftime where all of a sudden we have 4 phones on 4 different carriers and they all stop working at halftime. It's like, oh, okay, everybody's back on their phone and none of these 4 are working. We've certainly seen things like that. I know you said that other stuff was working throughout, but yeah, stadium, you get 20,000 people in a stadium. That's a tough thing. So usually at some, enough stuff works. But yeah, let's yeah, I'm glad you're trying it in parallel, and let's get some logs if you have any issues again, and be curious where you're streaming these games from. If they're all in sort of one geographic area, or if you're all around the world. I'd be interested to know.
Okay. Anthony says, I added a 4G modem and tried a data-only SIM card service. Their ping times are 600 milliseconds. When that connection is active, the usage meter just stutters. If I click disable on that connection, it's fine.
That's rough. Yeah, that's rough. So we do a lot of testing too, where we can connect different Wi-Fi cards to different access points, and we can adjust their latency and stuff. And even dialing those up, so we have Wi-Fi networks that are over a second. I don't think we've seen an issue with the latency graph just stuttering. That's weird. Or the usage graph just stuttering. So I'll have to ask the team, because that's a weird one. I mean, we test high latency connections, and I haven't seen that connection before. But yeah, it's pretty rough. I'm trying to think of what they would do to get you 4G with 600 milliseconds of latency. It's a lot of delay, unless it's just oversold.
It's got to bounce off the moon, right?
Kind of good with that.
Yeah, that is like bounce off the moon kind of latencies.
Oh, okay. So he's streaming from Slovenia. That's cool. Yeah, we'll have to look at that. And, the latency thing, that should be okay. I'll have to ask the team, and if you keep seeing that, send logs on that one too. I think we'd like to see what's going on there.
All right. Wait, what goes through?
His 600 millisecond 600 millisecond ping goes through Hong Kong. Okay, all right.
I've heard that. So a lot of cellular carriers have a small number of gateways to the internet, and when you travel to a different country, they're actually, you connect to some local tower for the country you're in, and they do a GRE, basically a VPN tunnel, back to your carrier in your home, so you can go out the same gateway as ever. And so, yeah, there might be devices that have these cheap SIM cards that actually send you out some other country, and that would get you to 600 milliseconds. I mean, if you could set that to backup or something in Speedify, right? And so Speedify would try not to use it unless it really needed to. It's interesting. 600 milliseconds, though, right? Like if Speedify says, "Oh, I should switch to that," you have a half-second break in your video, just because, right? I mean, 600 milliseconds, that's more than half a second. So when we start using it and start putting video over that, there's going to be a gap, and it's not us having done anything wrong.
Okay. He's got it on secondary.
Just messes with the graph.
Okay.
All right, we'll play with that some more.
Yeah.
How will Spotify work in UK? Do you mean Speedify? Hopefully you mean Speedify. Works great. We have servers in London. Are there other locations too?
Just
UK?
London, UK. And
we have lots of servers.
Yep. Traveling around, we've got stuff in Netherlands and France and Ireland and stuff if you're traveling around, outside of the UK. But yeah, it should work good.
Yeah. Not the Spotify typo. Happens a lot. I don't get it. All right. Okay, Super Tech Grover, what are you following up on?
Oh, all right.
Follow you on Twitch. All right. So you guys, if you're loving this or even just tolerating it, follow, like, subscribe. We're streaming to lots of places. I can't tell you what the button says because we're on Facebook and YouTube and Twitch. I think most of you guys are on YouTube. Most of you on Twitch, YouTube and Twitch. Anyway, follow us. Everything's free here. We do interesting stuff. It's us doing support sometimes, usually Wednesdays. Tuesdays and Thursdays, we go out and we talk to interesting people doing things with streaming. Yeah. All right. Thanks. I plan to start live streaming for my phone, so Speedify is perfect. Yeah. So what I do when I am, when I'm live streaming from my phone, I use my iPhone, and I've been using Larix Broadcaster lately with Speedify, and then I join the hotspot off my Android phone. So now the iPhone has the LTE from its built-in cellular, and over the Wi-Fi it hops over and uses this guy's cellular. So now I'm walking around with two cellular connections, and it works really, really well. What we're using today, since we're in the studio, is StreamYard, and we had Julie from StreamYard on a couple days ago, and she was telling us how much improved the mobile version is, just running it in Safari. And I was walking around my house doing some live streaming the other day, and I think it's actually really nice now. So I'm not sure if we're planning to use that tomorrow. I think we probably should try it. So it runs in the browser, and you both see the video, and you see the comments from folks going down the side right there on your phone, and it seemed pretty nice. We've been using Larix Broadcaster. It's very bare bones, but it just streams high quality video out RTMP. Doesn't show you comments or anything like that, but it just does what it does. Does it? So there's been an awful lot to be said about that. All right. Any plans to add NFTs and Bitcoin payment scheme for Speedify?
Not really.
Not really. And it doesn't seem like anyone actually spends Bitcoins. Is that an export for taking them as payment? They're just speculation things. And if people cared enough to buy a Bitcoin, they're not going to give it up for a VPN. I saw some crazy code this morning for login via NFT.
Nice.
Right? Or to log into the app, you have to show you're the owner of an NFT.
All right. I don't think we'll do that either.
But look at it. It's an NFT. It's cyber, man. It's crypto.
All right. So yeah, to this question, using two phones. I mean, I think a lot of that depends on if you have decent Wi-Fi from wherever you are, whatever your venue is. I stream a fair chunk of softball, and I'm prepping up for streaming a bunch of soccer games this later this summer and fall. And there's no Wi-Fi where I am, so I do 2 phones, so I can get on Verizon and AT&T. And so I think it depends. And if you're going to be at a spot where there's Wi-Fi promised and it's supposed to be good enough, and you're just worried that it won't be, then then you might not need 2 phones. You can use the venue Wi-Fi in your cell. But where I am, I really want to spread it across multiple carriers.
Right. So yeah, the couple times when I've walked around the office streaming, I've used the office Wi-Fi and the cellular, and it's been great. But generally, once I start walking around, I get in the elevator and go out on the sidewalk and just keep walking. And in that case, I know I'm going to make the Wi-Fi fail, so I don't even bother trying it. All right. So basically, Speedify is like a buffer and helps stabilize your Wi-Fi. Yeah. Okay. Once you have multiple internet connections, we can do amazing things for you. We actually do some good things for you even if you only have one connection, particularly at the edge of range of Wi-Fi. When things start getting bad, we'll start detecting packets getting lost and start sending them twice to get them through before the other apps you're using even notice the packets are missing. So there are definitely weird scenarios with just one internet connection. If you're at the point where 2, 3, 5% of your packets are getting lost, just adding Speedify can instantly double your throughput. But it's kind of very specific scenarios where that works. All right. Mar B loves the breakdown of issues Speedify can show. Sometimes my Wi-Fi just slows down and it won't let me look into it. Yeah, we don't do that much to tell you what's wrong. And we'll show you. We'll show you that there's latency, there's loss. But when we detect them, that's when we start saying, okay, time to use the cellular. So key concept is what we call priorities. I tend to assume people just know this, but they probably don't. So connections can either be primary, like I've got my Ethernet here, and this is what Wi-Fi and Ethernet will default to. You can change it here, but I won't. But here's the list. Primary, this is Wi-Fi and Ethernet. It means it's free. You're telling Speedify, use this connection all you want. Use it all you want. Secondary connections, this is what LTE cellular connections default to. This means it's okay to use it for a speed boost. But if everything would have fit on the primary connections, please don't bother using it. Don't use it unless it'll really help. The next level down is backup. This means this connection is even more expensive. Only use it if you need to keep me online, right? So even if things are a little bit slow, it'll start using the secondary connections, but it won't use the backup connections. The backup connections don't get used till it thinks, it's gone to hell in a handbasket. And then finally, never means Speedify, you may not use this internet connection at all. Why would you want that? Usually it turns out to be because people are doing complicated things on their computer with virtual machines that are pretending to be routers but aren't really connected to the internet. Those are the main people who, want to set these fake internet connections on their computer to never. But perhaps you have some internet connection that's so expensive that you don't want Speedify to use it until you go in and click it's okay to use it. And that would make sense too. All right. Okay, well, maybe sponsor some well-known IRL streamers. Someone like Ice Poseidon would have blown Speedify up for sure. Yeah, we're looking into it. I think there are a couple podcasts. It's not the most obvious spot to start, but I think there are a couple podcasts that next week from people you've heard of. We're going to start talking about us. So that'll be cool. Streamers a little more complicated, but I think we're gonna. I'd love to see an IRL streamer use Speedify for sure. Yes. All right. Anthony says, is 2 primary generally a better experience, even if one is, for example, unlimited 4G and the other is a gigabit cable connection?
So I think if you have a connection that is almost always really low latency and high speed, I would set that as primary. And if you have something that's a little bit more variable, I would set that as secondary. So in the example you pose of like a gigabit cable and unlimited 4G, I'd set that cable to primary, and I would set the 4G to secondary. And if for any reason that connection to gigabit starts flaking out, then we'll start spilling over into the 4G. But I think that would give you probably the most reliable, like lowest latency, steady behavior. But if you have a couple connections that are pretty similar, setting those both to primaries is usually a better experience, though.
Yeah, because this example, right, the gigabit cable is probably more bandwidth, maybe 20 times as much bandwidth, and lower latency and higher reliability, right? So when you say, oh, let's Speedify, you know which one Speedify should use, right? Yep. So having the software figured out. Right, yeah. I'm not sure the line is. When one connection is 10 times faster than the other, you should, start moving the slower connections to secondary, because they're probably not going to help very much. How will Speedify work with older Android phones like a Samsung S10 or S20? Man, Samsung S10 is now an older. I'm so old that when someone says a gigabyte, just for a second, I think, whoa, that's a lot. And I'm like, oh, no, that's nothing. Still catches me. We moved the line. We now work fine with anything that is Android 7 or newer. We have finally dropped support for Android 5 and 6. But anything that's Android 7 or newer, you should be okay.
Yeah, both those devices have hardware crypto. That should be fine. I think that's kind of, when we start looking at older or slower Android devices, that usually comes down to like, can the chip do encryption? And both of those phones can. So you start to get to some of like the $30 phones that were released like 6 or 7 years ago or something, and maybe they don't, and then you might have
most of those never got Android updates. So I think I think there are Android 4 and 5 devices, but we don't support that anymore. So Anthony says, sometimes for Teams calls, for example, I still find streaming redundantly setting 4G to secondary, but thanks for answering that. All right. We're out of time. So I will take one last question. Lee says, is there a way to automate connections to switch to the highest speeds on a Pi 4? I use 3 mobile hotspots in my van for work purposes, and slower connections ruin everything. I would think Speedify should be detecting the poor ones and avoiding them.
Yeah. So look, that may happen. I mean, and if you have one of the bad connections set as like a primary, and you have the ones that are still good set as secondary, you may see things where we keep trying to use the connection that you told us to as much as we can. But yeah, if you see that, send logs, because especially if they're all the same priority, we should detect that and be able to avoid the bad connections pretty well. So definitely want to see logs, and there may be just a settings tweak to help you with that one.
All right. I think we're out of here. We've been talking for over a half hour. But thank you, Brian, for joining us. Thank you, everybody, for all the questions. I really appreciate knowing you guys are out there and you care about Speedify. Again, if we didn't answer your question, support@speedify.com. Shoot an email. And I think that's about it. All right. Good night, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
See y'all.